Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I have a little bit of a special episode for you. I was invited to speak at Wooddale Church in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, all about going from home to care. And I thought it might be fun to have it on my channel so more people can watch the video. So thank you so much. I'm doing more public speaking. If you have a group that you think would benefit from listening to me talk about home care or all the different options in senior living or about geriatric Montessori or lots of other topics, please feel free to reach out to me. My number is 612 208 8888 and just ask to talk to Marlena, and I'm happy to arrange that. Please let me know what you think of my little presentation. And if you're interested in any of the handouts that I gave out at the presentation and you'd like to be able to utilize them yourself, please feel free to either give me a call at 612-208-8888 or email me at Marlena, Marlena, at thegenevasuites.com. Thanks.
People that's just it's an anxious thing. It's like, what do we do? But I remember as my mom was transitioning into that, I met Marlena, and Marlena was part of a program that we have here at Wooddale, and she heard me talking about my parents, and she came up to me and said, hey, can I talk with you? Because as much as the decisions that my parents had made were great decisions, there were some things that as children we were concerned for my mom and the care that she was getting, and we were concerned that maybe the care in the memory care unit wasn't as great as the care was prior to the memory care unit. And I listened as Marlena just shared some incredibly practical things to come alongside my mom, who lives in Chicago and couldn't be at the facilities that Marlena has. But my siblings in Chicago took some of the great advice that you're just going to hear from a very wise person today, and integrated that into my mom's care. And my mom passed away in January. But I will tell you that the end of her life was better than it could have been because of some of the advice that Marlena gave to me. So Marlena is the Chief Experience Officer and co-founder of the Geneva Suites, which is a collection of residential assisted living homes here in the Twin Cities. She has a background in education and marketing and customer experience, and she's a certified geriatric Montessori practitioner, which is a beautiful thing. I didn't even know what that was until I talked with Marlena. She brings a unique blend of creativity and empathy and leadership into her role. She's known for her ability to connect deeply with families, inspire her team, and create environments where seniors generally feel cared for and at home. Would you welcome Marlena as she comes to speak for us today?
Thank you. That was so kind. Thank you, Brian. So he tells me I need this mic. I'm a big talker as it is, so if I get too loud, someone can just say, okay, Marlena, tone it down. There we go. All right, so thank you so much for coming today. I am really excited to share with you what I know. My goal for today is for you to leave feeling empowered, because I really believe knowledge is power, and having resources to better understand this journey, because some people start the journey earlier than others. Sometimes the journey, it hits you in the face, kind of like Brian was saying, right? Where you think everything's going well and someone has an accident or a diagnosis that wasn't expected, and now all of a sudden you're in the middle of a crisis. And if you don't have the knowledge ahead of time, that crisis can feel really, really scary. There we go. So this is a little bit in the packets that I put out on the table. If you didn't get one, let me know and I can email the information to you after. That first page is, I was a teacher before I was in senior care. So I know that if you use different modalities, you're going to remember things better. And so this allows you to kind of see what's on my slides, but also write down things that make sense to you and hear all the fun things that I'm talking to you about. So feel free to use that top sheet. And then the other three sheets I'll reference while we're talking. But they are really meant to be resources for you to use after. Perfect. So a little bit about us. There's me and Scott. We were so fortunate to meet each other. I really think when God closes a door, he opens a big window. And that is definitely the journey that Scott and I had. We are on, I like to call it marriage B. Plan A didn't work so well. Plan B's been fantastic. And so Scott's been in the senior care industry for about 25 years. I've joined him with that for probably the last 12. And so I know enough to be dangerous. I like to say I'm not a nurse, but I could almost play one on TV. So I know enough to really engage on that. And prior to having Geneva Suites, we had a home care company, so we would go into people's homes and take care of them there. And we realized that there was just a gap. So many people want to stay at home, and I can 100% appreciate that. That's where you're most comfortable. But the problem is some homes aren't meant for senior care, right? Either the bathrooms on the second floor and you're not supposed to be doing steps anymore, or the only shower has a tub and you're trying to navigate getting in and out of that tub, which is a huge no-no and a big fall risk. There could be, the hallways in some of the older homes are super narrow, and to have someone help you with standby assist is really hard. So we created the Geneva Suites. It's a residential care model. And what we've done is renovate. We have 7 locations, so 7 homes, and they're really designed for seniors. So all of our showers are 0-degree entry. We heat the floors in the bathroom, so it's nice and toasty. We have a chef that makes all of our meals, so staff can focus on taking care of people. And we think it's a superior model. But my goal today is to talk to you about all different kinds of models, so that you feel like when you're in a hospital and they're like, okay, you're going to need to discharge, you really have an idea of what a discharge should look like and what would be a good spot for you. So our goals today, kind of when to start the journey, where to go and why, and then decide who makes the call, and that is a big one. If you haven't had this conversation with your loved ones, it is really, really important, while you still can share how you feel about things, that you are telling them what you want your wishes to be, and put one person in charge. I know when you have families and you have lots of kids and you're like, well, I want everyone to feel part of it. Yeah, that's great if everyone can agree 100% of the time. But if you raised your kids, the likelihood that they're all going to agree 100% of the time is pretty small. So, you can split up the duties. You can have them, so one's in charge of kind of the healthcare decisions, another one's in charge of the finances. You can kind of put a level, okay, first it's Junie, then it's Susie, then it's Teresa or whatever, but kind of put a line of succession, so if someone goes on vacation, they have a backup, or something happens to them and they can't make those decisions, it's already decided. And have those hard conversations. Gosh, the United States does not like to talk about death and dying, and I can appreciate it. Wouldn't it be lovely if we all lived forever? But none of us are getting out of this alive, right? Like, we all are going to have to deal with it at different times. And I truly believe that if you can pass away in an environment that you're cared for by people who love you, in an environment that you're really cared for and they know you, I think it's a really beautiful thing. We had just this last week a resident who had been with us for 6 years, and he was able to pass away in our home with staff that had loved and cared for him for all 6 years. And so to know that when he couldn't speak for himself and what he wanted, they already knew, right? They knew how he likes his water super cold. Don't give him room temperature water, right? And some of those little things that at the end really can make a difference. So when to start? Recognizing signs are really important, because if you can make the move and the change before you have a crisis, you're going to have a lot more options. That old basketball saying, I think it is, pass when you can, not when you have to. When you are starting to see some of these little signs, like you got a new diagnosis, or you are starting to withdraw more and not wanting to leave the house very much. And typically that's because other things are going on and the confidence just isn't there anymore. They really need full-time supervision. You're noticing mom's putting weird things in the fridge, or in the microwave is where she put the gallon of milk and now it's spoiled, or some of those things can happen. And so when you start seeing, gosh, we really need to keep an eye on them a lot, that's when making the move is really important. You all probably know, but a lot of our day is spent in muscle memory. So that's when you're in your home and you can open that drawer and pull out a spoon and you didn't even have to look at it, right? Or you're putting laundry away and you don't even need to think about where the socks go or where the t-shirts go, because your body just knows, right? We spend close to 80% of our day utilizing muscle memory. And so if you move someone when they're so past being able to make new muscle memory, they're going to have a much harder transition. So I strongly encourage, as hard as it can be, make the decision earlier so you have time to adjust and settle in before you're in the middle of a crisis and now they just feel lost all the time, and that's not really fair either. If you notice there's like some major weight loss or hygiene issues where you walk into mom's house and you're like, ooh, Mom, when did we shower last, right? Or we got to keep brushing our teeth, some of those things. When hygiene changes, it means other things are changing, and that's just something you're seeing outside. So red flags that shouldn't be ignored. If you notice that they're not managing their medications properly, that is a big one. Taking too much Tylenol can kill you. It can cause liver damage that doesn't go back. So keeping track of those things, making sure they're taking their pills, the ones that are supposed to be in the morning, and the ones at night, making sure that they're taking them in a row. There are lots of options out there now that you can pre-pack the pills for them. It's really important as a loved one to step in and start doing that before they need it, right? Understand all the pills that they're taking, why they're taking them. If you see mom's taking 15 or 20 pills, do we really need to be taking all of that, right? There's a lot of over-medicating out there, and you take this medication, and now you have to take this medication to combat this medication, and it can get really confusing. And so having that real conversation with physicians on, do you really want quality of life or quantity of life? And those are two very, very different theories, right? If you want quality of life, yes, things are going to start declining. It will happen, but if your quality is high and you're able to do what you want to do for as long as you can, to me, that's way more important than having many, many days, but a large portion of those days, maybe you can't talk anymore, you can't move your body the way you want. And if you would have known 5 years before that these last 5 years were miserable, you may have decided, gosh, I'd rather have just gone peacefully, because, we all have faith, right? So this is not the ultimate end. And so leaving on a positive note is way, way better. If someone's falling a lot, that is huge. And that's a big indicator that they need more support. There are definitely things you can look for when you are in someone's home. It's the simple things that rugs, get rid of the rugs. I know they're pretty. I know they absorb sound. They are one of the biggest tripping hazards, and it blows me away how many people will have rug to rug to rug, and it's like, don't do that. The lighting is huge, especially at nighttime. Amazon now sells little night lights that you can plug in. They're dark until it senses movement, and then it puts a really nice soft light so you can see. Falling in the middle of the night is never fun, especially if you're on the way to go to the bathroom, and now you have two problems, right? You want to make sure that if someone's getting confused and wandering, that is a hard stop. They need to find someplace else to live that can keep them safe. There are just too many silver alerts out there that people have wandered off, and family knew that things weren't right and they just didn't make the decision soon enough. And then caregiver burnout. That is so real. You can't take care of someone if you're not taking care of yourself. And if you as a family member feel like the only thing you're doing is coming in and managing mom, well, I got to do her laundry, and then I got to do her groceries, and then I got to pack her pills, and then I got to do this. And you have no more time to sit and hold mom's hand and listen to her stories and remember all the things about mom that made her special. You're going to remember mom as a burden, and that's not the way anyone wants to feel at the end, right? And so make the decision before you are wiped out is also really, really key. So getting on the same page, having those courage conversations. So I'm not going to read the page that I gave you all. You all can read, so I'm not going to do that. But the courage conversations are a great way for you and your family to start talking about it. You know, DNR, DNI is a big one. Does everyone know what that means? DNR, DNI? Do not resuscitate, do not intubate. So after you turn, it depends on your bone density, but somewhere between 65 and 70, there is a lot of research out there that CPR is more damaging than helpful. So to be able to do CPR correctly, they need to break almost every bone in the sternum because the bones are so rigid. They're not pliable like when you're younger. The way that they have to do that, the likelihood that you're going to get enough oxygen to the brain is very, very low. So most of the time, seniors who've received CPR are oxygen deprived as well, which means that their cognition is going to be dramatically different. And it can also affect things that they used to be able to do, like walking, talking. Strokes are more likely to happen. And so me personally, and what I've talked to my parents and even my kids about, is I would rather go peacefully and not have that traumatic CPR experience than to have it and wake up in extreme pain, which is really hard to motivate to move past, and not be who I was before. I'd rather everyone remember me as a lively, can't stop talking Marlena versus, you know, here's someone who's not able to leave their bed anymore, and families have to make a hard decision to end, you know, the respirator and the ventilator. And that's a really hard decision because families feel like, well, I'm killing my mom if I unplug that. Actually, you're letting nature do what it tried to do before that you stopped. And so it is a hard conversation, but it's a really important conversation for you to have it with your families now when you can make that decision and let them know why that's so important to you. So that way your kids aren't fighting about doing this or not doing that. Because putting a wedge in between your children when they really should be able to bond together it's not cool. It's not fair for them either. So the first option for care is living at home with supported care. So that's home care, kind of like what I was talking about that Scott and I did originally. So that's when a care partner will come into your home and take care of you anywhere from an hour or two a day all the way to 24 hours a day. That is the most individualized care. That is care that you will be able to really dictate what that looks like. It's also the most expensive. Right now, home care ranges somewhere between $40 and $60 an hour. So when you think about 168 hours in a week, that adds up really fast. It's about $40,000 a month. It's a lot. Very few people can sustain that long term. So that can be a good option if you have a crisis. Hospital says you have to go home with 24-hour care. Home care can be a nice bridge to help you get to where you need to go next so that you get the support. But it is really hard to do long term. If you are a veteran, home care can get paid for by the VA. So this is my little plug. I don't benefit from it at all, but I think it's really important for those that serve that they get their full benefits. And they are able to provide home care, and it's a complete VA benefit. So if you know someone who needs a little support, they are able to do, they generally don't do 24/7, but they are able to do several hours a day, and it can help bridge that gap and give families a little relief. So independent living or 55 and over communities, I like to see these kind of like a cruise ship on land. Like, they're fun. They have parties all the time and there's stuff going on all the time. This is perfect for someone who no longer wants to manage a house or the yard, and they want to be around people a lot. And they have events that you get to go to, but you need to be independent. You need to be able to transfer yourself, shower yourself. You need to be able to, they tend to have meal programs, so you don't necessarily have to make all your meals, but you need to be able to get to where they're providing the meals. And you need to be able to make smart decisions and dress appropriately and all of those things, which is great. And if that's where you are in your life stage, it's a lot of fun. Like, it's like living in a dorm, but way better, because people don't have all the issues you had in college and you're not studying anymore. So it's really fun. I have some key questions to ask if this is something that you want to do. I strongly encourage you to ask lots of questions, go to several communities, see which community feels like it's going to be the right fit for you. Traditional assisted living. So this is what a lot of people are like, I'm going to move mom into an assisted living and she's going to get all this care. Now, this is my personal belief, but I believe assisted living is for someone who needs med management and shower assistance. If you need much more than that, an assisted living is not the right fit. It is so hard for them to provide the high levels of care, and a big part of that is your staffing ratio. And so it is really, really important, if you're looking at an assisted living, that you look at what that staffing ratio is and who are they including in that staffing ratio. Some assisted livings have gotten a little tricky, and they include their front desk person and the culinary staff and housekeeping staff. And then when you go to push your button and someone comes up and says, "Oh, hi, what do you need help with?" "I need to go to the bathroom." "Okay, I'll get someone for you." And then you're waiting 45 minutes. So what happens is they can say that their response time is really quick, and it was. Someone came and asked you what you needed, but you get put on a list and you're waiting. I don't know about you all. I can't wait 45 minutes to go to the bathroom. I've had 4 kids. When my body says it's time to go, it's time to go. And so that's a big reason why falls happen, right? They're sick of waiting. I've waited too long, and I have dignity, and I don't want to soil myself. And so they try to do it on their own, and they fall. And now you're not just dealing with the fact that you had incontinence, but now you're dealing with a broken hip or broken arm or all different kinds of things. Now you just moved up to a different level. So identify what really is going to support you in the level that you need, so that way you avoid that crisis, right? No one wants a broken hip. That hurts. So a typical assisted living will be a ratio somewhere between 1 to 15. A good one will be somewhere around 1 to 10. So when you average that out, that's somewhere between 4 and 6 minutes an hour that you get with staff. So again, if I think, I got to go to the bathroom, call for someone, get up, go, wash your hands, do all that, come back and sit down, it's more than 6 minutes. I'm an able-bodied person, and it takes me longer than that. It's going to take someone helping you much longer than that. And so think about that when you have kids and we talk about kindergarten or preschool, right? Do you want them to go into a classroom where they're 1 in 15 or 1 in 20? Or do you want them in a classroom where they're 1 in 30 or 45? You want the lower number, right? Because you want them to get that support. You want them to get that one-on-one attention. And there are very, very few seniors that say, hurry up, do this faster. All of them say, slow down, talk to me, let me tell you about this story. And they want to be able to do that, and that's what's keeping their mind fresh. If you don't use it, you lose it. And it is so important for them to have that attention and that interaction. And so really look at the ratios. That's probably the biggest thing I would say, and make sure that, because there are some beautiful assisted living buildings. Like, you walk in and they are gorgeous, they're brand new, but ask them, what is the care like here? How long does your staff stick around? How long has your director been there? And if they're like, well, we're in the middle of transitioning a new director, and oh yes, we have staff that, there's a lot of turnover in this industry. They're right, there is, because those caregivers are burnt out. If you are running from person to person to person, and you never get to spend the time like you wanted to, and that's the whole reason why you got in this field, is because you wanted to be able to spend time and take care of people. I understand helping someone with incontinence is part of the job, but they don't want that to be the only part of their job, right? And so they get burnt out and then they go somewhere else. So it's important to really look at who's going to be providing the care and how many people are available for you. So residential assisted living, yes, I am partial to this. This is what the Geneva Suites is. Our ratio is a 1-to-3. So our staff have about 20 minutes an hour to spend with each resident. It's a lot more manageable. They're able to really focus on them as residents, and we're able to do little things like accommodate a schedule. And you think, accommodate a schedule? That's not that big of a deal. I can be flexible. So we had a gentleman who moved into our setting. He was owner of a construction business, and before he needed care, he ran his business, and he ran it a very tight ship. And so he woke up every morning about 6 a.m. He would go on to whatever site was there. He'd enjoy a day of hard work. He'd come home and take a shower, and then he'd have his dinner, and then he'd relax. Well, when he went into a large building, they said showers here are between 8 a.m. and 9:30. That did not work for him. That threw he couldn't settle down at night. He didn't want to eat because he felt dirty. It didn't work. We brought him into our home. He lived with us for 4 years, and we didn't have any of the behaviors that they described. I had another gentleman who had been in a large assisted living, and he was more of an introvert. And he was literally a rocket scientist. He's probably the first and only one that I met. He helped NASA get people on the moon. Pretty smart man. But when his daughter came to visit him for lunch, she found him in a corner, eating in the corner. Because the 100 to 200 people in the dining room were just way too overstimulating. He just couldn't handle it. And so he moved into our setting, or was going to, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, Bob, I really want you to be comfortable sitting at our table eating dinner with everybody. What can I do? And he goes, well, if I could have my gosh darn chair. Well, he used a different word, but you get the point. He wanted his living room chair that he had sat in for over 40 years, and I said, bring it. So he sat in his special dining room chair with the arms at the head of our table and loved it. He did great, and we didn't have any of those behaviors. So a lot of times when you're in an assisted living or in a memory care, they'll talk about, oh, your mom's got behaviors now, and we need to medicate her because we just can't control these behaviors, and she's going to hurt herself or hurt someone else. So what I like to say is behaviors do happen, and occasionally some medication is needed. It's not that they need to be snowed. They need their anxiety brought down. So typically behaviors happen when some of your basic 5 needs are not being met. So are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you in pain? Are you bored? And you got to go to the bathroom or you're soiled. All 5 of those need to be checked. And sometimes, just like when you have a baby, sometimes it's all 5, sometimes it's just 1, sometimes you have to check a few, and you get it on the first try, and as you get to know him, you're like, oh, yep, that means he needs to go to the bathroom, or yep, he needs something to do. What can we do to engage this person? And Brian mentioned briefly the geriatric Montessori, and I'll talk just for a second about that. So geriatric Montessori is utilizing skills and interests that someone has so that they feel like they have a purpose. And so it can be as simple as them helping put silverware away, or it could be matching lids on Tupperware. When people have declined quite a bit, it can be nesting the cups for measuring cups, right? So you've got the third, the 2/3, and put them all in a nesting pattern. Everyone wants to feel like they have a purpose, right? Who wants to wake up and be like, I've got nothing to do today ever? Why get up, right? Like, everyone wants to have something to do. Everyone wants to feel like they're important still. And maybe it's, hey, Joe, you are funny. Every day at the beginning of our meals, I need you to tell us a joke. That's your job for us. So you got to come up with some jokes for us or some conversation starters for everyone at the table. So everyone needs a purpose, and that's what geriatric Montessori talks about. But it is really important to feel needed. All right, memory care. So memory care is a lockdown unit that is typically in an assisted living, and it's for people who are going to wander. If you don't have a wanderer, memory care is fine, but they don't have to be in a lockdown unit. Like, we are not licensed as a memory care, we're licensed as an assisted living, but I can help people with cognitive decline as long as they're not going to be a wanderer. So if they are constantly exit seeking, then a memory care is really, really important, because you don't want them wandering out in one of our windows and with no shoes and getting into trouble. Typically, it will have a lower staffing ratio. Typically, it will be kind of self-contained, so they'll have a table, an area for dining in that memory care, and they're just kind of in these 4 walls. Well, they're expanded 4 walls, but it is in a very contained unit. And unfortunately, when some people's cognition changes so significantly, that is the right option. It is really important to find out if that memory care is treating them with dignity. And so this will be my little soapbox. The state of Minnesota has a lot of great services and a ton of great programs, but the state of Minnesota has gotten so over-regulated, it's kind of gotten ridiculous. And the only way that's going to change is if you all start talking to your congresspeople and saying, okay, let's be real here. These are seniors. These aren't babies. They don't need to be treated like babies. There are some memory cares that can't use silverware. They have to use plasticware because they feel that for their safety, they need to do this. Well, I'm sorry. You can still hurt someone with a plastic fork. You can bite down on a plastic fork and swallow a tine of the plastic fork, and that's way more dangerous than a piece of silverware. But they've gone to this huge extreme. There are some memory cares that won't allow people to use scissors, ever. Well, come on. Someone who's 80, 90, they've been cutting coupons their whole life. They feel like cutting coupons for their daughter is something that gives them purpose. Are you kidding me? They can't use scissors? So it's really important to find out, like, yes, obviously I want my loved one to be safe. I want everyone who's in this memory care to be safe. But we got to use some common sense. And the state of Minnesota, in my opinion, has gone a little overboard. That being said, some key questions to ask, how are your staff trained for memory care? So if you know of anyone with cognitive decline, there is a gal who you can Google. Her name is Teepa Snow. It's Teepa, and then snow, like we get snow on the ground all the time. She is amazing. I have learned so much from watching her videos and listening to her speak, and she has a ton of resources. She is fantastic, and I think the way she views dementia is really beautiful. So she sees everyone as a gem. So she says, all of us, we're sapphires, true blue, we're thinking clear, we're good, we're flexible, we can support. The first level of dementia is someone who's a diamond. They're clear, but they are sharp. And what that means is, as long as you follow that exact routine, as long as they're in their environment, that they can follow what they know, they do really well. We can have diamond moments, right? It needs to be done this way. Actually, there's lots of ways things can be done, right? So when you feel like you're having a diamond moment, you need to step outside, get some oxygen in your brain so that you can, again, think clearly like what really is important. Arguing with someone who has cognitive decline about how this should be done or what the story is, that is pointless. You will lose every single time. You're going to get frustrated and they're going to get frustrated. The next stage, she says, is those that are emeralds. So green means go. They are going somewhere. They tend not to know where they're going, and you need to be watching, right? They're on the go. They may be putting laundry in all kinds of weird spots. They may be, instead of using dish soap to wash dishes by hand, they're putting it in the dishwasher. They're just going and doing, and that's when you really need to start getting some support and care in there. The next stage is that of an amber. That's yellow. Kind of means caution and things are slowing down. So when amber is created, it's because something gets stuck in time, right? And that's what an amber is. And so often for those individuals with dementia, they are stuck in an error. So it could be, I gotta go, I gotta get my daughter off the bus, and her daughter's 60 years old, she was just there this morning. She's not coming on the bus, right? So arguing with her that, no, you don't need to get your daughter is going to cause a major problem. It's much better to say, hey, let's look at some of your picture books and see what your daughter looks like so we know who we're getting off the bus. Oh my gosh, and I bet she likes a snack when she gets home from school. What kind of snack should we make? Let's make one, right? Now we're not focused on daughter coming off the bus. We're focused on making some food, looking at all of her cute pictures, and now that's not an issue anymore. Red is rubies. That means things have stopped. So sometimes it's continence, sometimes it's speech, sometimes it's movement, but things are really stopping and slowing down. And the last stage of dementia that TIPA talks about is that of a pearl. And so if any of you have seen an oyster, it's pretty ugly, right? And dementia is pretty ugly. And so what she talks about is with the right care, you can open the shell of dementia and still see that beautiful pearl inside. And I think that is really beautiful. And that's part of what we teach our staff on caring for individuals with memory care. So a skilled nursing facility. So people call it a SNF, and that can get really confusing. You're like, a SNF? What's a SNF? It's also a TCU. So if you have hip replacement and you need more support, more therapy, you'll go to a TCU for a few weeks, and then you get to go home or go to wherever you're going to get that level of support. I have heard for years, please don't put me in a nursing home. Please, please, I don't want to live in a nursing home. And I don't blame you. They tend to be very clinical. They are even more regulated than an assisted living. And I have walked into so many SNFs. They are getting better, I will say that. There's been a big push for improving them. But you walk in and everyone's in a wheelchair all lined up, crying, please, please help me, take me home. Get me out of here. And what a miserable way to end your days. And so if you don't need constant nursing intervention, you don't need to be in a nursing home. So if you need IV medication, you do need to be in a nursing home. If you have a wound that's so significant that you need a wound vac, nursing home for a while until that wound heals. If you need a trach or a ventilator, those are all typically nursing home needed care. But almost everything else can be handled by care suites, residential assisted livings, those with the higher caring staffing ratios. So a lot of people want to talk about cost. Assisted livings, a lot of them do them different ways. They will give you, we are required in the state of Minnesota to break down rent and services. That is a state rule. And so when you go, the rent is usually a fixed number, and then the services change. And so it's really important to understand at an assisted living what causes the change and who do they talk to before they make that change. Right? Because if every time mom gets a different day for her shower, there's a fee for that, it's all after the fact that you get that bill. So how do you know if mom really got her shower on Tuesday instead of Monday? You don't, unless you're constantly keeping track, and then that's a whole nother job, right? And the whole point of your loved one being in a setting is that you can go back to feeling like a daughter or a son and not a care manager. And so it's really important, like, do they have care levels? Is it fixed pricing? What is it, so you can plan for it? So at Geneva Suites, we've made the determination that everything is all-inclusive. I don't want my nurses to hesitate saying this person is a 2-person assist, because it's going to bump up their care points or care levels or whatever it is. I want the nurses to be able to put in place what that person really needs at the time. But it is really, really important to understand what that means. There are some assisted livings that have gone into, okay, this whole, when you come in, this is what your price is, and every year it's going to go up a certain amount for cost of living, but this is the price. I strongly recommend doing that. You may feel like at the beginning it's a little too much, but I promise you in the end, for your sanity and for budgeting purposes, just knowing what the price is super important. The other thing to make sure you know about is, do they accept a waiver? So in the state of Minnesota, you will hear a lot of people say EW. EW means elderly waiver. And what that means is that after your funds are exhausted, then the county that you live in will pick up the service tab. And so unless you have millions in the bank, I strongly encourage you to find a place that will accept EW after it's done. And good questions to ask are, do you accept anyone on EW? Or do you only have certain rooms that allow for EW? Because if they only have 3 rooms that take EW, but it's a 60-unit assisted living, those 3 rooms are going to be full pretty much. And as a family member, you'll be expected to pay it until that EW is available. Otherwise, they'll say, sorry, no payment, you got to go. And so I would say, for wherever you're at, when you realize that, gosh, we have about 6 months left of funds, you need to start looking at getting on EW. It takes at least 6 months. And the way the state does it is, if you apply for it, you get put on a list for an assessment. That assessment is called MN Choice, MN Choice, and it takes a long time to get that assessment. But they will not backdate for wherever you're at past where that MN Choice assessment is. So if, let's say, you run out of funds in February and you don't get an assessment until April or May, that gap, someone's got to pay it. And so getting on the list sooner rather than later, and then they can say, okay, you qualify once your assets are below a certain point. I believe, and again, I'm not a county caseworker, so don't quote me on this, but I believe your funds need to be down to about $3,000 of private funds. If you have a spouse, then I believe they're able to keep their house as an asset, and I think $150,000 of assets. Everything else needs to be utilized for care. There are lots of different payment options and ways to pay. I have a great resource. His name is Care Funding Ray, and he does a great job of supporting people and finding unique ways to pay for senior care. If you have long-term care insurance, that is a great way to help pay for care. If you haven't signed up for it yet, it may be too late. Now it's too much. Just start putting money aside, because it does go fast. A SNF, if you're paying privately, it's going to be somewhere between $14,000 and $17,000 a month. For our residential assisted living, with the care ratio that we have, depending on the care level you are, it's somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 a month. Assisted livings tend to be somewhere between $8,000 and $14,000 a month, depending on what kind of care you need. And so most people will end up needing EW to to pay for their care. And so understanding, call your county, say, hey, I'm a senior, I have this much money, I know I'm going to need to get on elderly waiver. How do I get a financial case manager? You need to be able to do a look back of 5 years. So be very careful giving lots of money away when you think you're getting close to needing care, because then you don't qualify, and that's a much bigger problem. So if you don't have a lawyer or someone that's helped you set up your healthcare power of attorney, financial POA paperwork, ask them about that. So that way you get what you need to. And again, if you're a veteran, the VA does help pay for some things. Practical steps to make the right decision. So one of the other resources that I put in that packet is called a Care Vision Tracker. It looks like it has lots of big boxes. So I created this so that you can have one sheet to go into any setting and say, this is what I need. Are you going to be able to meet these needs? And so that first side is talking about, what are your care priorities? If your priority is to have activities all the time during the day because you're a go-getter, then you need to make sure that that's what that facility has. If your schedule being accommodated is really what's important to you, or just high quality care is really important to you, you should put those in there to make sure that they're going to be able to meet those needs. Care needs are different, right? Care needs are you able to transfer on your own? Do you need one person to help you? Are you a two-person assist? Do you need a machine to help you transfer, which is called a Hoyer? All of those things are care needs. Are you a diabetic? Do you need help with insulin management? Are you on a regular shot, or are you on sliding scale? All of those things are really important to have on there. Then the next section, I believe, is barriers to care. So those are things like, are you starting to have some behaviors? Talk about them now. Talk about them before you move someone in. Put it all out there so that way the facility knows if they're really going to meet your needs. Every transition that a senior makes takes something out of them. So it takes a solid 4 to 6 weeks to transfer from one setting to another. So when you think about someone who's doing the merry-go-round of going into a hospital, every time they're in the hospital, it's starting a transition. Then in the hospital, they move to a different ward or a different unit. That's another transition. Then they go to a TCU. That's another transition. Then they go back home. That's another transition. Then they go to assisted living. That's another transition. Now that assisted living can't really meet their needs. Now you're doing another transition. And every transition takes something out of them. And so this is, again, where making the choice earlier rather than later and trying to avoid some of those crises will help you not have so many transitions, and you'll have more success. After that 6 to 8 weeks, they tend to start bouncing back a little. If they're going to bounce back, that's when you're going to see it. And they'll get to a new normal. Before that, you got to give them some time. And so I've had so many families that have been like, yeah, we've been here for a month and we just can't do it anymore. We got to move, Mom. This is terrible, terrible. And Mom has not had a chance to really transition. So I would say if you make a move for at least 90 days. You got to commit to the 90 days, give them a chance to really fully transition, and then see how that facility is able to support at that time. On the right side of that page is talking about finances, thinking about and having it written down there for you. And then key questions that you're going to ask every place you go. I think it's really, really important to be consistent so that way when you compare apples to apples, that you're looking at, did I ask the same questions? Do I have all the same information? Once you pick a facility, then the other side of that page is helping you have a successful move. What kind of paperwork do you need to bring to be successful? Do you have your healthcare documents all in line? All of those things. And then really put down the schedule that works for you so they can make a plan on how to accommodate that. I'm running out of time, sorry. Sometimes I talk a little too much. So conclusion, there is a ton out there. I am happy to be a resource. If I'm not the right fit. I know places that are. There are places that I would send my loved one. There are places I would not send my dog. So there's always a story, right? Every place has a story. And so find out if their story is going to match your story. And that's more important than what the building looks like or if they have a lot of activities. You know, activities are great, but I can't tell you how many seniors I go in and it's supposed to be bingo and there's no one there. You know, they have on their wall in their elevators 8 activities for the day, and a senior looks at that and it is so overwhelming. They don't even know where to start. They're afraid that if they get there 5 minutes late, that they shouldn't go at all. And then they're afraid, how are they going to go to the bathroom? So really have that conversation with your loved one. How many activities would you really go to in a day? And are the activities for you as a daughter to feel better? Or are they really things that your mom wants to do, right? You know, like we purposely bought all of our homes to be have beautiful environments outside because so many of our seniors just like looking outside. We have bird feeders and a lot of wildlife, and they just like to reflect and look outside. And that's okay to do that for a large part of the day. Let's see. There you go. So we do, those are 2 of our therapy animals that go out to the homes. I really appreciate you all coming and listening to me today. I didn't leave too much time for questions for the 1 hour, but I'm happy to stay and answer any questions. Does anyone have anything right now that we want to make sure we talk through? Yeah.
All right, I'm going to bring the microphone to you so that they can hear you online.
As long-term care insurance increases, is it wise to keep it even if?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So our average cost is somewhere between $400 and $500 a day. That's just what it is. So if your long-term care insurance is able to pick up $300 to $350 a day, so you only have to make up that small margin, that's huge. Questions I would make sure you ask your long-term care insurance. If I pass away and don't get to use all of this, what happens to all that money? I would make sure I ask, is there a cap? Does it only go to a certain amount of money per year or for the lifetime that you have the policy? So that way you understand, is this long-term care insurance long-term or is it only for 2 or 3 years? The other thing to make sure you ask and understand is, what is the elimination period? So the elimination period typically means that you are going to pay privately for wherever you're going to go for 60 to 90 days. If you are on hospice, they will waive that. So that's something to make sure you think about. The other thing to make sure you think about, a lot of long-term care insurance will help pay for home care. So if you know that things are starting to change, use your elimination period as home care. It's way less expensive. And then you have, then go into an assisted living. Who else?
We had one at this table, and then, okay, I'm going to go over here. Yep.
Perfect.
In regard to elderly waiver, with the upcoming Medicaid changes, do you know that the criterion for elderly waivers is going to change? Or
I haven't heard anything specific to that. I think what Medicare changes, and again, I'm not a government official, so please don't quote me on this, but I think it's more for people who are abusing the system, people who say they're disabled and can't do anything, and they really can do something. And so what I've read and the research that I've done, it's more for those that aren't doing anything to say, okay, you had your time to recover from this, to do whatever. Now you need to start at least working 10 hours a week to maintain and doing more of a step down for those that are still able. I have not seen anything that it is affecting EW rates or that type of thing. One thing I will, and I don't think I mentioned this, but this is really, really important. When you get your assessment for EW or you're going on any county waiver, you want to make sure that you describe your worst day. So many people have pride and they want to say, oh no, I can get dressed in the morning. Oh no, I don't need help with that. I can do that. I can transfer on my own. And so what ends up happening is the assessor says, okay, your case mix B or your case mix C, which is really low because it's saying you can do all these things on your own. But in reality, you have bad days and you do need someone to help you get dressed and you do need someone to help manage your medications or help you transfer. And although pride wants to tell you, nope, I can do it, please tell them that you need the help, because then the assisted living or wherever you are is going to get compensated for the care that they're actually providing. They only do one assessment a year. And so even if you need way more care, getting a reassessment is really hard. So be brutally honest and talk more about your worst days, because when that year's up, you're probably going to be having more what's a bad day now happening. And so that way, the facility is really able to care for you the way you need.